Good evening, I am Cyril Stover, and this is America Decides, reaching you on the network of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, it is the much-anticipated U.S. presidential election night. The next president of the United States emerges tonight to occupy, for the next 4 years, what's seen as the world's most powerful seat. Now, every nation on the globe with specific interest in trade issues, security, regional influence, or socio-cultural affiliation is monitoring the unfolding election with different degrees of excitement. Now, in Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, the interest is more than casual, as the United States is also one of Nigeria's biggest trading partners, with increased visibility in the areas of security, health, power, agriculture, and of course, this administration's anti-corruption drive. Now, socio-culturally, Nigeria, being Africa's most populous nation, leans towards the U.S., which has African-American.
Nigeria shares these values with the United States, as do dozens of other countries in Africa and around the world. Free and fair elections are the foundation of democracy, and while the mechanism for election vary from country to country, the essentials are the same for all true democratic societies. For us here in Nigeria, there are lessons to be learned and examples to draw from the U.S. election. Not only did Nigeria fashion its presidential system of government after the U.S., both countries operate the bicameral legislature and have huge number of states. We also share commonalities in massive population, diversity in religion, ethnicity, and general complexities. And so here at the Shehu Musa Yar'Adua Center in the heart of Abuja city, we shall be learning more about the processes of U.S. presidential elections and the mock voting, which held a few minutes ago here at the Yar'Adua Center. Indeed, the result of the mock voting are expected to be a pointer to a new era in American political history. Later, at 11 p.m. tonight, here at the Yar'Adua Center, we will be linking out via Google Hangout or Skype to listen to a U.S. election speaker. At about 1:15 a.m., we expect
Muhammad, well, just in case for viewers who are watching this, just in case you notice that there's so much ambience there, it's because there's a lot going on at the Yar'Adua Center. And, well, of course, as he said to you, it's going to be a comprehensive coverage all night. We expect that we'll continue with this broadcast until the early hours of Wednesday. By then, hopefully, we should know who the next president of the United States is. But back here, we've lined up a number of reports, and we also have a team of analysts. We'll be introducing them to you at some point in time. But let's begin this way to say, in addition to strong diplomatic ties and other commonalities, a veritable way of measuring the importance of countries to each other is via their economic relations. Nigeria-U.S. economic relations have witnessed fluctuating fortunes. Now, from a period of low between 1960 and 1998 to one of boom, that's from the present democratic dispensation in 1999, to the signing of the Binational Commission in 2010. Finance and economy correspondent Cliff Ayoze has a report on that.
The United States, until recently, remained the largest foreign investor in Nigeria, with the U.S. foreign direct investment concentrated in petroleum, mining, and wholesale trade sectors, including cocoa. U.S. exports to Nigeria, including good governance, transparency and integrity, energy and investment, regional security, the Niger Delta, agriculture, and food security. This landmark agreement impacted positively on U.S.-Nigeria trade relations. In 2010, U.S. imports from Nigeria stood at $30 billion, exports at $4 billion US dollars, with Nigeria enjoying $26 billion favorable trade balance. In 2011, U.S. imports hit $33 billion, while exports stood at $4.9 billion, and Nigeria smiling home with balance of $28.949 billion. Frosty relations with America saw imports from Nigeria cascading from $19 billion in 2012 to $3.8 billion US dollars in 2014, with a balance of $2.1 billion US dollars tilting in favor of the United States. U.S. imports dropped further to $1.9 billion in 2015, with $1.5 billion surplus against Nigeria. Within the period, good governance, corruption, and Nigeria's realignment of its trade interests towards Asia were called to question. In the non-oil trade, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, for more than 10 years, offered Nigeria and other sub-Saharan countries preferential trade benefits. But poor quality of goods, packaging, and other factors left Nigeria making less than 2% impact. With the election of President Muhammadu Buhari, who is tackling insecurity, corruption, and the economy, trade relations.
Thanks for being here tonight. Okay. We are also joined tonight by Ambassador Joe Keshi, who's a retired permanent secretary for many years in the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Thanks for being here, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Let me also welcome tonight Professor Jibrin Ibrahim.
G8 countries, there's no way we can come out ahead. No, there's no way. Very clearly the promise of intra-African trade and some degree of South-South type of economic reorientation may well be the way to go down the line. At this point in time, America still is a preferred trading partner, but we need to diversify. So there are all kinds of issues, and that's one reason why a chief economist will be very helpful at this stage in Nigeria's development. So we'll see where things are going. Right.
All right. Well, yes, oil, like you said, played a part of it. But Malam Abdullahi Dauda, there are all those who still believe that, yes, at a point in time, we had that much trade, we had that much relations with the U.S. But usually these things are skewed in favor of the U.S. It's what is in their interest. So at the point that the U.S. didn't have that much interest in one or two things here, and that's part of the reason why we lost ground.
Definitely, as he stated, in terms of the negotiating power and also in terms of the trade imbalance and the rest. And I think the one lesson as we continue with this relationship is, as Nigerians, we need to start looking inwards and the diversification to do things for Nigerians in Nigeria, because of the trade, the imbalance of the currency flow also.
Some of his clients around the world. And so as long as our economy is not diversified, as long as we have nothing to trade with our development partners, our trading partners, we be at the receiving end. There's no other magic to this. There's no magic to this. It's just that even today, you find that when we hear in this country that the price of oil is going up, we're all very happy. No, we shouldn't be. What we should be doing actually is forget about oil completely and focus on creating a productive economy. When you have a productive economy that is properly diversified. And I think in a way, our economy is gradually, we just have to push a little bit more in some critical areas so that when we begin to say, look, take a good example is China. China virtually produces everything. A couple of years ago, China was in our position, was probably not doing well with everybody. But today, China has overtaken everybody. What did they do? They just went into production. And that is what we have to do. And I've made this point so many times, particularly on your that, look, if when this administration came on board and the president said, look, I don't care about oil. I'm going to be the Minister for Agriculture. I'm going to be the Minister for Solid Mineral. Everybody in this country
Have a Clinton presidency.
I think the key principle is that no external party will come and develop your country for you. You have to do what it takes to advance your interest and to develop your economy. Unfortunately, we've failed for a very long time. It was quite interesting last weekend reading the long interview by Philip Asiodu, who was a super permanent secretary, and he explained 1970 we became a one-product country, petroleum. And they sat in cabinet and took the decision that we must diversify the economy. Based on that decision, the 1975-80 development plan was worked out specifically to diversify the economy away from oil, use the proceeds from oil, develop agriculture, which was the previous mainstay of the economy, but above all, go into industrialization. Subsequently, nothing happened. People in power decided it's simply easier to steal the money for their own private aggrandizement. And that's what's been happening. And every government comes in and repeats the same thing, that we must.
There's really no advantage to having a Clinton presidency, even though she helped to midwife that binational commission, unless we get our act together.
Well, yes, because the opportunities have always existed since 1975. Some countries use the opportunities who are not able to use those opportunities that emerged.
Anything to offer into Agua because we have nothing to export apart from oil.
All right.
Well,
then
okay.
It's still a long way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but that's about steel. If you're talking of economic, economic development, doing all these things, there's no steel industry to talk of.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll come to that. But we'll be returning to
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Come. See, call this gizzard. Put the data liver. Yes, I'll go put Oga. This is so you have plenty. Why you dey shake now? What do they worry? Cut them now. Make a put it.
It's their declaration. But Nnamdi Odipo takes us back in time with an account of how it all started for both candidates leading up to today's crucial election in the United States.
For many across the world, these announcements was hardly surprising.
I'm running for president.
But this one was. Nominees that's passed on to party supporters and increasingly to those who contribute to candidates. And so it was that on July 19, 2016, at the GOP National Convention, Donald J. Trump officially became the Republican Party.
Internal democracy. And here you have a situation where they ensure that a candidate is not simply the outcome of an in-house, clubhouse sort of selection by party godfathers, that there's a chance for the public members, card-carrying members, to have a say in who emerges a top official. It's a very fascinating process. It's almost like Americans go through almost three types of elections. First of all, you have the straw poll, the initial test of popularity, where the candidate goes around the country to say, listen, I'm thinking of this. Then the primaries, when they officially declare, just like Nnamdi's report was saying, when Trump says, I am now officially a candidate of the party for the presidency of the United States. It's a very magic moment. The people then emerge. But you tend to have up to maybe half a dozen serious candidates who will spend a lot of money, as it were, crisscrossing the country, talking to party members and holding caucus meetings here and there. And of course, eventually, at the party convention, somebody emerges, and then the real thing begins, which is where we are today, the actual election. So the question is, what can Nigeria learn from this? There's, I would say clearly, internal democracy is one major lesson. but also the involvement of members of the party in whatever is being done.
Okay, we didn't hear talks about consensus emerge. It's not anything that we can see. we have around here.
You know, true. We copied the United States Constitution to a large extent, but we also do not. We failed to adopt some of the characteristics of the political system itself, including the discipline, of the political system itself. Secondly, as my colleagues here have also said, you could see the beauty of what has transpired in the last couple of months, in which you use the word, there was no consensus candidate. There was no substitution of candidates after the guy has won an election. And when you look at why our politics, say, remains immature, it is because, in fact, I think your guy, Nam, there was a guy who made a report. There was something in that report which I think we should not miss. He said that, today the selection is in the hands of party members as against what it was before, where party lots.
An ideology in African politics is about identity, religion, ethnicity. But what do we see? Day one from this round of the American elections, Donald Trump made a statement. No more polite talk. I'm going to say it as I think it. And how does he think it? Bigotry, racism, anti-Islamism. Just all the most base and negative instincts you can find in a human being. And the expectation would have been people will feel revolted. What happened? The typical white Anglo-Saxon American was happy.
Right.
Now I can say what I think. I hate Muslims, I hate black people, I hate Hispanics.
Mexicans.
This is my time to finish them. So I think the point I'm trying to make about the lesson we should emphasize, it's not a question of they are like this, we are like this, but that in every society, there's good politics, there's bad politics, and we should choose that good politics.
So my analysts are here. Professor Kabir Mato is still here with us, and of course, Odilin Wagbara. We are going to look at this seemingly outcome of this mock debate and the mock election and dovetail into the policies or policy options that may likely happen if either Donald Trump wins or Hillary Clinton wins. So let's, Professor Kabir Mato, let me start with you. Hillary has won by a majority voice vote. What does it portend as far as the Electoral Center is concerned?
Well, I think it's simply an expression of the Nigerian sentiment, and which all over Africa that is replicated. It clearly expresses that, a sympathy with the minority groups within the United States of America and perhaps the third world nations, have for the Democratic Party and its candidate during every presidential election in the United States of America. If you observe that right in history, virtually all the elections that have taken place so far, Africans tended to side with the candidates that the Democratic Party, has presented at different times than any candidate that the Republican Party has, So
from Africa. I told him no, because he's the president of America, not president of Africa. And of course, he has to show Americans that he's not going to do things for Africa that Africans don't deserve. If not, it will block the way of other African Americans trying to be president of United States in future.
Well, certainly we have heard from the two of you. Let's look at the specific policy options that there is or there will be for Africa and for the developing world if either of the candidates wins. That is, Hillary Clinton appears to be an interventionist, a global interventionist or policy person, while Donald Trump appears to be someone who will take America into an isolationist kind of a thing. So let's start with Hillary. By the time she wins, if indeed she is going to win, what sort of options will we see, and what will it portend for Africa and the developing world?
Well, I think the thing, like I said earlier on, is that Africans generally seem to have sympathy for the Democratic Party. And as far as American election is concerned, and as far as the American presidential, system is concerned, it doesn't matter. We woke up one morning and we found that Britain was moving out of the European Union strictly on the basis of the sentiment that British people felt that the Union has only succeeded in opening up the borders where other people have come to take away every wealth that the British people hitherto had. So if the Americans will choose to also go the way of the British, then what we see at the end of the day is that the extremist-wise Americans will insist on retrieving America from the rest of the world. So that's basically the line in between the two of them. But as far as their policy and stand on Africa is concerned, I think it does not make any difference. We all thought 8 years ago that when Obama became president of America that it was going to be, honey, milk and everything for the continent of Africa. But I cannot see anything specifically, in terms of developmental challenges, not even in the rest of Africa, but even in Kenya, that will be fingered, to the presidency of Barack Obama. What I'm saying in essence is that as far as the American establishment is concerned, it is about United States of America. And it clearly spells, to the practical reality of the common saying that there is no permanent friend, but permanent interest. There is no permanent enemy, but permanent interest. So Africans should not expect too much even if Hillary Clinton wins. It's going to be still United, of course, it was under Hillary Clinton as the second.
As the largest economy in the world, to China as the largest economy in the world. So this is very critical. And that's why Americans are very careful who this time around will be their president. But you see, what has been happening is that there's been a protest vote. A protest vote. What happened with Donald Trump is a protest vote by Americans who were saying, wait a minute, since 2008, after the Great Recession, the economy recovered, but millions of Americans were trapped in poverty. They could not, nothing is being done by government to put them up the ladder. So using racism and immigrants as a reason became acceptable.
Are you saying the Obama economic policy has failed?
I'm not saying it has failed. Obama No. Those were part-time jobs. They are not full-time jobs. But also, you don't blame Obama because Obama inherited bad economic policies of Bush. Bush went to war, 2 wars at the same time, borrowed trillions of dollars in order to fight this war. And as a result, the consequences was what you witnessed 2008. So Obama came to manage the situation. He tried to manage it, but at the end of the day, he has not managed it in a way to reduce inequality, economic and social inequality in the country. Actually triggered the end of American supremacy, economic hegemony. And I'm not trying to say I'm for or against, but I'm trying to tell you whatever he does to his country is his business. But I would have been interested that he curtails WTO. Because if he curtails WTO, it's to our benefit. So for me, if I were to vote on economic grounds, I would vote for Donald Trump to win so that he will curtail WTO. He will curtail WTO and other world agreements that have actually been suffocating our economy. Now, looking at Mrs. Clinton, the only thing you can talk about Mrs. Clinton is that, she has this feeling that she is going to help African Americans, especially to, cut taxes, increase taxes for the super rich. So so that they will have enough money for social investments and things like that, which have been actually curtailed by both her husband, Bush, and Obama. And she has seen now that the only way to actually help American economy move forward is to actually increase taxes on the 1%, the top 1%.
From the convention of where the Democratic Party candidate is going through. And ironically, that has earned him a lot of place within his party. Because in the first place, by the time the primaries started, nobody gave Donald Trump any chance of emerging as the flag bearer of his political party. But the sentiment and extremism and all these very uncomplimentary statements he was making at the end of the day endeared him to the Republican fanatics that he emerged as their choice at the end of the day. And that's what has, the statements and the campaigns that this man has continued to make, and then the revelations and expositions that we have seen, his personal characters, the way he conducts himself, during electioneering campaign, what he says.
She is here also observing all the developments here at the Eradua Center. Joseph, over to you.
Well, obviously exciting to be part of America's history, and that's talking about who will be in a couple of months' time, the succeeding President Barack Obama as the 45th president. And now I have with me the National Congressional INEC, Abuja Amina Zakari, who will be speaking to us about today's event. You're welcome, madam.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's just start talking about the event as it is. We see a large number of Nigerians who have come here to also show solidarity. What's your impression?
Well, I'm very impressed to see that Nigerians are very involved, and this is what the global village means. Everybody is getting interested in what happens, not just within his country, but across the borders. And the excitement and the palpability in this hall is quite amazing and exciting too.
Okay, all right. Now, what does this solidarity portends, in relation to the relationship between Nigeria and the U.S.?
Well, Nigeria operates a presidential system just like the U.S. So Nigerians are very much interested in what happens in the U.S. and it serves as a learning process for Nigerians. Additionally, the U.S. has two major parties, and same thing, Nigeria is tailoring towards two major parties. So it is a good lesson to know what goes on in the U.S. so that we can improve our own democratic process.
All right, and let's look at the lessons to be learned from this show of love, show of solidarity, outpour of connectivity. The Nigerians are connected with the U.S. So what should form part of the lessons that we should imbibe, looking at our electoral process? What do you think Nigeria should learn from this?
Well, we should learn about the electioneering process in America and the fact that there's tolerance within the American system. Even though their campaigns don't seem tolerant, but the whole electoral process in the long run, at the end of the election, it becomes a tolerant system. And we should also learn to trust our institutions, because it's only through trusting our institutions that we can build on this democracy. We have to imbibe the culture of trust and the culture of supporting each other and supporting our institutions. And then the the culture of being friends, friendship. At the end of the election, you will discover everybody else accepts the election and life goes on. So this is what we need to imbibe, no matter how heated the campaigns have been. At the end of the election, we need to see a polity that is calm and accepting of the process.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for speaking with us, madam.
Thank you very much.
All right, you've heard it all. We need to show some
and highly affordable data plans, then Glo launched 4G LTE, data so clear and so fast that it will transform the way Nigerians communicate, work, learn, and play. They can listen to millions of music tracks, enjoy thousands of movies, play online video games, and even watch live TV. Their homes have become smart homes. This is the new speed of life.
Enjoy the fastest data speed plus free world-class content at 10 gigabytes for 2,500 naira and 24 gigabytes for 5,000 naira. Available in all Glo World outlets and Glo dealers. Welcome to the new speed of life.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
My daughter-in-law, so how are you planning for my son's birthday? I have to cook for her. Do you people have ogirisi there? No? It's okay. Okay, let me call you back. Mama Chijioke. Hi, so wait a market. Please pack some ogirisi. I am going to visit my son. My daughter-in-law. It's arranged, but you must use original red oil to prepare the soup. What? I'll call you back. Mama Chijo, please include Isio Morocco. My daughter-in-law. Everything is now set. But don't forget that gold wristwatch I saw the last time I visited.
Now you can talk until you tire for just 11 kobo per second. Call all networks in Nigeria and 30 international destinations, including US, UK, China, Canada, and India for just 11 kobo per second. Dial *211# to activate.
That's Silk Boo-Boo.
The largest data network, Glo, grandmasters of data.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, the race to the White House is at the finish line, and yet it's already won for the books. Both major candidates in the election are bound to make history if and when either emerges the winner, despite a turbulent campaign season that clearly depicts what each one wants for America. Nnamdi Odipo has a report on some key campaign issues, as well as the controversial ones and how they shaped the election.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
He's perhaps the most unconventional, abusive and divisive of candidates ever to emerge on the platform of a major U.S. party.
He's proving to the world what it means to have an unqualified commander-in-chief.
She is the trailblazer, a second-time contender for the presidency, and as the party says, the most qualified presidential candidate ever to contest.
If Russia and the United States got along well and went after ISIS, that would be good.
Because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet. In the polls, but the gap narrowed in the days leading to the election. All eyes are currently on polls coming out of swing states like Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Ohio. These states have the power to swing the election.
Well, gentlemen, this is what we prefer to call the twists and turns of this very bitter, some people have described it as bitter campaign. This is certainly going into the books, even though it's at the finish line. Now, some have said in all of America's history, this is perhaps one election that is scoring so low in terms of the ideology which people talked about and in terms of the bitter personal attacks.
Yes, clearly, and I've been watching American elections at least since Reagan very closely, and I'll tell you, this is one of the worst in terms of the lack of cordiality, in terms of the innuendos, in terms of the not so subtle appeal to violence, especially on the part of Donald Trump. The debates are a major innovation. slide towards global domination, we worry. Largely because America is a nuclear power. America is simply, by far, the most important and most powerful military power with its military strength 2.5 times that of every other major power combined, from Japan to China to Russia. So imagine Trump with his fingers on the nuclear button. I dread
All
the day.
right. Well, if so many were worried about the pronouncements of Donald Trump, others have said, well, Hillary Clinton is not exactly the best choice, and they've described it as choosing.
I say move forward.
Oh, okay. Some of the controversial issues had to do with race and such matters, as particularly for African Americans or migrants who are in the U.S. Now, the worry of some is that would the Trump presidency actually expel migrants in the U.S. and people, preventing Muslims, for instance, from coming into the U.S.?
Siri, I will answer your question, but let me quickly just comment on the two. Many years ago, Donald Trump exists in the United States. But so I just want to make this, but for Hillary also, like he said, for me as a person, following almost her life history, Hillary is the most unfortunate woman to have run for office. Look, if you look at the emails, the interesting thing about the emails is that there's not one single email where Clinton sent out an email. Aki and I worked together in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I left before him. So if I now say to her, I send a text to Aki, Obama's administration took out over 2 million immigrants, dumped them out of the United States. They are going to continue with that policy because there is no way in modern times that you go around the country pulling out 11 million unregistered immigrants. It's almost near impossible.
Yes, it's impossible.
If you know the way the U.S. work, who is going to finance the cost? All right. You know better in this way that even to get the police to come to like your studio here for 1 hour is very expensive. Very, very. All those guys you see in conventions and so on, they are private guards. Right, the police stays at the periphery.
Oh, plus lawsuits.
Plus so somebody's going to pay for getting the police to go and do all these jobs. So it's not going to do it. Secondly, I've consistently argued that the way the U.S. system works is going to suck in the president also. So when he gets to the Oval Office and he says to somebody, look, I made a promise, I'm going to take out 11 million people, somebody is going to say, Mr. President, listen, we need to take a look at this again. We need to find a way. You want to build a wall. It's going to cost about 40-something billion. All right. There's no way they can pay for that wall. And Mexico will not pay for it.
All right. We'll take another short break here. You're watching America Decides. When we return, we'll put the same question to Professor Jibril Ibrahim to see if there's a chance of a Trump, in the event of a Trump presidency, the throwing out of 11 or so million immigrants from the U.S. So stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh Gerula. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
With immigration issues, religious issues, and the worry was that could he really carry out those things, as talking about Donald Trump, if he wins the presidency?
I think we have to separate Trump, the strategist, from what Trump, the politician, says. When he decided to contest for the presidency, the statesmanship. Therefore, he's going to try to bring in the politics of brigandage that he developed in his career in real estate in New York into the policy arena. And I think what frightens the policy community around the world is, like, for example, businessman thinking, why doesn't Japan pay for the security we provide them? Let's commercialize it. Why doesn't Germany pay? Let's make money out of it. Now, the world happens to have serious security problems which cannot be monetized in that petty trader mentality that he has. And it's that element that poses a lot of risks, because he doesn't simply have the basic understanding that there are certain things that you cannot trade for money.
Okay. Ambassador Fayomi, some saw him as a symbol of the anti-establishment, and this was not your regular politician in the first place. And as soon as he started with those anti-establishment sentiments, it caught on. Even the other ones that, comments that are frightening people, they're seen as, well, these things are latent in the American society, and all he did was just unearth them.
Like my colleagues have already said, yeah, he actually capitalized on the mood of the nation. So many supremacists are in the U.S., and they've been looking for somebody like a Pied Piper that can make a tune, and then they jump on the bandwagon. So he used that to get the nomination. But like Prof said here, it's another thing entirely if you become president of a country. You just don't do some things, and then you are going to have checks and balances in place. You are not just president that can just sign a bill. It has to go to Congress. You can't make war without going to Congress. You can't do trade for another country without going to Congress. So there are so many things. You can't throw away immigrants without going to Congress. You can't deal with Mexico. That's another sovereign entity. It's not a state in the U.S. that you want to build a wall around. You cannot do that. You have all these things means that he's hampered by the system, which he does not know. I believe he might know some of it. He might be pretending, but he doesn't have any experience at all in governance. So maybe, just maybe, he does not know what he's going to be in for. That is if he gets the chance to be in the White House.
All right.
Seriously.
So at this, yes.
Can I quickly point
yes.
out one policy
will determine the persons that will be voted into the Senate and also the House of Representatives. In fact, they are saying that 34 Senate seats are up for grabs out of the total 100 Senate seats in the entire U.S. Senate. So these are the issues I would want Odilin Wegbara and Professor Kaburuma to look at because earlier we have discussed the various policy options and policy directions of either Hillary Clinton or a Donald Trump presidency. Clinton reforms, pundits say, will depend largely if the Democrats take the Senate.
That's true to the extent that we see what has been happening in the last few years since it lost its majority in both the Senate and House of Representatives. It's essential, Americans sometimes will keep shouting about bipartisanship and what have you. But in reality, the nitty-gritty of running the affairs of state becomes problematic. When the party that is controlling the executive arm of government is not, controlling the legislature. We have seen, the various battles that President Obama has, faced. In the replacement of justices of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, and the threat to vetoing a lot of, very critical policy decisions that came from the
Republican. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But there's something I want to actually bring to fore before we continue this issue. Because let me tell you why it will be practically impossible for Trump to win this election. There are two issues at stake that Trump shot himself in the foot by not recognizing the importance of these two issues. One, it is his pro-protectionist policies, which is anti-free trade. You know, the American establishment is actually pro-free trade because they are the beneficiaries of free trade. Now, for Trump to be against the establishment means that Trump is actually shooting himself in the foot. Because the American election is actually almost always decided by the powers the establishment has. The second is the emerging Cold War, which, whether you like it or not, China and Russia are aligning. And the goal is to realign against the United States and UK. The United States and UK. So the premature friendship between Trump and Putin is what frightens the establishment.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Certainly is an issue, an interesting development you have.
How does this work?
Well, we have two phases to victory for our presidential candidates. Yes, they want to win the popular vote to get a majority of the individual votes, but they also must win a majority of the Electoral College. There are 535 votes in that Electoral College. In order to get a majority, you must get 270 of those votes. 270. So therefore, you have to develop a means of accumulating enough states, a variety of states, in order to achieve that number.
So, how is the process going now? What's your impression? And governance.
I'm not going to suggest that Nigerians can, quote, learn something from the American system. What I will say is that Americans learn from other political systems in creating their own. Our founders were learned men who were quite familiar with the practices of the ancient Greeks, of the ancient Romans. Remember, they were originally British citizens, so they were familiar with the United Kingdom and its practices. And our system of government
That was very interesting there. Russell Brooks has been speaking on the relevance and the importance of the American Electoral College. My panelists here will also expand a little bit on this. 538 Electoral College votes, and then a candidate must have 270. What is the likelihood any of these candidates, that is Trump or Clinton, will hit the 270 mark?
This is how it works. America has two extremes. The Republicans, red, and the Democrats, blue. Those are called Republicans. Those are called Democrats. Now, when you get to the Electoral College, by the way, why Electoral College? That's the question. America has 50 states as federating units. So each state has to be won. And if you win a state, you win a certain number of Electoral College. So that you cannot actually, it's not a majoritarian democracy. It is more of winning Electoral College based winning a state. If you win a state by even one vote, you have automatically won that state. Which means that why they make it 260 votes. So electoral votes have been carefully designed, but there's nothing about electoral votes. You know, when Americans conceive their democracy, they believe that electors, when you win a state, you appoint your own elector. So those electors will come to Washington and cast their votes. But automatically, the electors have no powers because they cannot cast their vote against the state or the person that won the state. So that is how the system is designed.
Professor Martin, yeah, as a political scientist, can you bring us back to Nigeria now? The Electoral College system, from the understanding or the explanation of Mwagbara.
Lagos are, for instance, they have the some number of senators with Bayelsa, with Gombe, and Taraba State, the states with the lowest number of people. So every system, every arrangement comes with it, certain peculiarities in order to assuage certain, misgivings that may arise as a result of feelings of domination on the part of those, who are either minorities in terms of population or other minorities in terms of, geography, ethnicity, or whatever. So we cannot talk about that. In Nigeria, the system has always been, the candidate with the highest number of votes.
No.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, Ogerola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me.
All right. Although voting started some 3 weeks ago in the American elections, results would not be known until the polls close individually in the 50 states. Now, mercifully, unlike in many countries, the announcement of results is instant the very moment polls close. Here is a rundown of the times to expect results.
The U.S. presidential election is at its business end. The finish line is in sight, and it is now nail-biting time for Republican Donald Trump and Democratic Party nominee Hillary Clinton. The early indicators show a high turnout. The election will be won or lost with this bloc. At 2:30 a.m. Nigerian time, voting will close in Arkansas, where former President Bill Clinton was once a governor. At 3 a.m. Nigerian time, the second crucial chunk of votes will come in from Arizona, Colorado, Louisiana, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Iowa, Montana, Nevada, and Utah will turn in their votes at 4 a.m. Nigerian time, while America's largest state, California, with 55 electoral votes, will close voting at 5 a.m. Nigerian time, alongside Hawaii, Idaho, and Oregon. The last votes will come from Alaska at 7 a.m. Nigerian time. The votes from Alaska, which supplies just 3 electoral votes, have more often than not been for the statisticians, because long before Alaskan votes come in, the new occupant of the White House.
But I think that our own particular culture is still one where the premium of power is so desperate that it's a matter of life and death. So you have a situation where INEC itself and all the paraphernalia of vote
States also polls are closed, and then the results will begin to come in instantly.
Yeah. Correct.
Right.
Well, the poll, as you said, is a kind of a tradition when they start to close, because usually each state has their time.
Introduce some form of it, but that also was fraught with a lot of controversies, and we had to resort to issues of law and what was in the electoral law or what wasn't, and what it actually meant.
Well, the most sensible way of simplifying it is to simply everybody uses his phone. Of course, you have to develop the controls and the guarantees to make sure that's not manipulated. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, that's where we need to be. We can't continue showing a concern for the insecurity of elections by multiplying the number of machine controls that we have in our system.
Some say perhaps we require this kind of system so as to insulate us from allegations of, well,
have no idea what option A4 was. What they think it is not what it is.
All right.
So we should be careful when we start making conclusions about
voter education is still the problem.
A4.
Voter education is still the problem, and even the learning experience of these machines is still an issue. Whatever it is, I mean, it's been a year and a half since the last election. You know, there haven't been workshops conducted, there haven't been community INEC tours to educate people. It has to go constituency by constituency. So there are all kinds of things that people really need to know.
All right. Okay, we'll take another short break here. America Decides continues in just
can generate massive employment and grow the economy. Buying locally made products and services means investing back in the economy. Thousands of Nigerians are innovative and can take Nigeria to the next level. Growing the economy starts with you and I. Raise the standard. Grow the economy. Buy made in Nigeria.
All right, still talking about post.
So there are a number of things we need to do. Paul said maybe in the next 5 years. One of the things we should do, and I think we've been doing this for years now, I'm not getting it right, is this national ID card.
All right.
Once we can, integrate all the, because everybody seems to be doing one thing or the other, the military is doing their own, this is doing their own, If we can integrate the database, it becomes very easy. So you can actually go with your driving license or passport and register and vote immediately, and eliminate all this, expensive venture of registering. There are schools in almost every village, every corner in this country that we can use as electoral hall and eliminate any expense of building, centers. So there are so many things we can do to make the system less cumbersome, but attractive, that will encourage people to go and vote. And look, in the US, people went to work today. Right. And one of the reasons, believe it or not, one of the reasons why we are having low voting population in this country is that we declare Saturday completely work-free.
And movement-free.
And movement-free. So what happens? On Friday, some people travel to their hometown. They don't vote.
To Eradua Center, and I will link up again with Mohammed to tell us about latest developments right there. Take it away.
Certainly, Cyril, here at the Eradua Center, like I said much earlier, a lot is going on. Right now, we have had an idea of the composition of persons that the U.S. Embassy invited to be part of this.
Okay.
Is Mrs. Hillary Clinton.
Sade, you're supposed to say incorrect. No one? Okay. We have consensus on how we're going to determine the winner. to the question of who were the two candidates in the first televised presidential.
Will talk in the studio with his panelists and, of course, hand over to NTA International for the news at 1.
Census building, the Prime Minister does not act without taking all the interest groups in a particular society in tow. But the problem is that the Prime Minister can come the next morning and with a simple show of hands, a vote of no confidence removes him from power. And in our kind of system with so many zones and so many blocks, that could be very destabilizing. I think that the issue has never been the type of system. What we had in the First Republic was perfectly fine. The politicians refused to work it. What we have right now is also perfectly fine, but the presidential system goes with campaign finance reform. You can't make it so expensive and have elections so expensive and expect miracles in terms of workability and so on. So there are things that need to be fine-tuned, and if the Electoral Reform Committee that is doing its job right now does it as seriously as we hope, and the results are taken seriously, we can begin to fine-tune the system. Every system evolves. We're still at that stage.
But then would the parliamentary system, for instance, be less expensive than the presidential system which we've adopted? Would anyone say?
Well, I think when you look at public expenditure profile in Nigeria, and under Blair, in fact, that was the highest level of presidentialism in what they call the British parliamentary system. So I think, I mean, I've taught political science for the past 30 years, and I think the formal differences exist. But even in terms of that formal differences, by the time you go into deep analysis, you find that the differences are not there. It's the culture of politics that determine what you do with your system.
I agree perfectly with the professor here, because by the government, everybody who ran for office raised money from the public to be able to run.
All right. Okay, Ambassador. Well, at this point in time, we'll link up with Ifeanyi Okafor in our international studios for the news. Ifeanyi.
Historic moment for Americans to decide on who sits in the Oval Office, holds that the race remains close as a crucial moment arrives.
Polls open as early as 6:30 in the morning, and many voters were at the different polling precincts to cast their ballot. Those who requested absentee ballots were also seen returning them before polls close so that they can be counted.
Down a little bit now. We've had pretty steady lines throughout the morning. In the early morning, the lines were very long. It's a pretty small space here, so we were pretty filled up with people.
In the swing state of Ohio, voters asked
Hillary Clinton's victory. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index was up 0.3%. China's Security Index, CSI 300, also added 0.4%, while Europe's index of leading 300 shares extended Monday's gain, rising 0.3%. In the commodity market, U.S. crude was up 0.7% at $45.20 a barrel, and global benchmark Brent gained 1% to trade at
And back home, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed
for delivering relevant education with the very little resources available. I strongly believe that the fastest way to bridge the gap between those who can afford good quality education and those who cannot is technology.
The theme of the conference is Learning Opportunities for All, the critical role of teachers. In Abuja, Jude Onifade, NTA News.
Nigeria and Canada are to collaborate on migration issues to generate greater opportunities for trade and investment for support in their efforts to bring honor to the nation. The Vice President gave the assurance when he visited the team's training camp in Abuja Tuesday evening. Sports correspondent Kenema Bodike was there for NTA News.
The visit of the Vice President to the players' training camp is the first by a top federal government official since the inception of the present administration. August visitor, who addressed the men's team first, expressed satisfaction with the quality of training.
Omini Oden, in our virtual studio, explains how it works for the Americans.
Americans today are not directly voting for their president. They are only empowering electors who will vote the president on their behalf via the Electoral College, as provided for in Article 2, Section 1 and Clause 2 of the United States Constitution. Thus, the current election would only determine who among the candidates would have more electors that would actually choose the president on December 19th later this year. The Electoral College is a name given to a but it is rare and has never affected the outcome of an election. Some states require formal pledges enforced by fines and possible jail time, but historically, electors rarely depart from the will of the people. If you understand the Electoral College system of the United States, you will see why they have the so-called battleground states and why campaigns are conducted differently in America. It's a winner-takes-all system as we have in Nigeria, though with a little difference. For instance, a candidate can cut away all the massive electoral.
Well, the historical origin of the Electoral College is something that is also that we need to think of. It came about in the earlier days of their particular system when there were no political parties. And at the beginning, political parties evolved over time. By the time of Thomas Jefferson in the 19th century, when in fact the system itself has started in the late 18th century. What you have was a situation where America was evolving. There are many territories that had not been occupied, and the whole question of whether a state has this level of population or that level was in dispute. So they found. It's something I think that, and the political scientists can speak to this a bit more, that they inherited. They can do without it, but it's part of their history and it works for them.
Let me come to you, Professor Jibril Ibrahim, on this. What's the difference between the presidential election in the U.S. and the Nigerian equivalent? That's in terms of the voter influence, as we're seeing with the Electoral College. That is just a straight, uncomplicated.
Determined by 200 voters. It was really very slight change, but all the same, I think, as Prof said, they've had a long tradition, and sometimes it's very difficult to change traditions. But I think when one looks at the system, essentially, for modern democracy, the gold standard is direct
and also followed. In the end, the Gore lost that actually he was very honorable in what he did by conceding for the, I guess, democracy system in the United States. Because he could have continued the history.
This, but most of us would still want to see as a rather complicated and sometimes confusing system. How would you describe our own 2/3 of states plus the popular vote, which is quite straightforward?
Yes, I wish everything were that straightforward. But where you mention these 2/3 of our states, you recollect the celebrated case.
Goes to the House of Representatives, and some horse trading might happen. It hasn't happened too many times except in very earlier moments, but that is conceivable, that the two parties can get equal votes and then all bets are off. They then go to the House of Reps and every elector or every member of the House of Reps will actually have to vote their conscience, in which case billionaire Trump might might get busier.
Just a bit of information. There are
security priority.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change.
Some form of.
Cyril, look, we need to understand what the donor did throughout this election. What he did to rise up to become the candidate, and what he did throughout the election cycle was to we are now regretting that, you know what, we allowed Donald Trump to make a fool of us, and we actually helped him to where he is today. True. So it was just a showmanship, and it's perfect. And I just think that in a way, some politicians will study this and say, you know what, we can actually run an election without spending so much. Do what Donald Trump.
And has he been this strident? Has he been this right wing? Not that I remember. He's had a very funny relationship with race. He has his very good friends who are African American. He has a particular conservative streak sometimes of going against young black kids who do one thing or the other in the city. There's a famous case of the New York Five.
Because Republicans listening to Fox accept whatever they hear in Fox, and that's what he did.
Okay, we just as we said, we have the results, some of the results trickling in, and easily here, these are the first set of states where the polls have closed, and we have it that Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump is reported to have won Indiana, that has 11 Electoral College votes, and
New York traditionally goes to Democrats. Right. But I believe this year it will still go to Democrats, but you also have a well-known guy from, New York also running. So we need to see what happens in New York.
But you saw what happened today? When Trump came to vote, they booed him. Yeah. In New York. I mean, New York is really not for...
So the developments as they unfold. But for now, let me take you to my colleague Phoebe Kabruk, who is going to be speaking with Rocky Swift, the Vice Consul of the U.S. Embassy here in Nigeria. Phoebe, over to you.
In contrast to some of the other very populous big states, it's pretty evenly split between Republican and Democrat. And where Florida goes over the last few elections, so goes often the entire election. It's a winner-take-all system, so whoever wins the overall vote in Florida gets all 29 of those electoral votes, and that.
Issues of migration, issues of American interest, national interest, issues of email hacking, the interests of America. But I think beyond that, what excites me most is the fact that most Americans are very well educated about this election, and they are going to vote along those lines of issues, not based on any sentiment.
Nkudu there, he was speaking with Lambert Okpara, the Deputy Head of Protection and Investigation at the National Human Rights Commission. Earlier, Phoebe Kabruk spoke with Rocky Swift, the Vice Consul of the U.S. Embassy here in Nigeria. Back here in our Eradua Center studio, Odelim Wegbara, an economist and political analyst, is here, and also
a very senior Trump, campaign official is already saying that it will take a miracle for them to win. meaning that perhaps because they are on the ground and the figures and the predictions and the projections that are being received possibly are not really very favorable. And of course, like you did say, it's really very early to call.
Yeah, Professor, having said that, as a design in a way to show that America is a federating unit. The states are the federating units. Now you have 538 electoral votes total. Now if you win 270, the next candidate will win 268. And there's no way you win 269 because that is if you divide it. Because no state has two battleground states. Are they the same with the swing states like what I explained?
Well, they could be the same, but I think the battleground states are mainly those states that have very high electoral votes. And there are states that, a lot of, each of the candidates, each of the political parties desires to win. If he or she wins, the tendency is that it's likely that he's going to cover for a lot of...
I'm a bit excited because my candidate is winning as at this moment. I don't know what happens afterwards. You know, the interim results that have come in shows Trump leading by about 10 and Hillary lagging behind with about 3. So that is enough to make me excited tonight. Oh, no, this early morning.
Okay, all right, that's nice. Well, now let's look at this. A woman contesting for the presidential election in the U.S.
For every woman that has, leadership, politics, leadership plans, in the political space, it will sort of tell the person that really there's nothing really holding you back. The whole conversation about patriarchy is being turned on its head. Even in Africa, it's happening. We have Ellen Sirleaf of Liberia, coming up to showcase this huge leadership. Participants would usually have the tendency to take away this conversation offline, take it with people that are around them and that matter to them, and then the conversation just transcends. That means you can have a conversation on Twitter today, and then all of a sudden you go to watch a football match in a bar, and then you see people having that same conversation 72 hours later.
And they have swing states, often called the purple states. Typical red states will be places like Texas, for instance, Georgia, Alabama, a whole range of southern, deep south states and so on, but also a number of others here and there. Typical blue states, Democratic, will be New York, in this instance.
It's also typically red. But right now, it's too close to call. And everybody will be surprised if South Virginia goes to Mrs. Clinton. So nobody's surprised that North Virginia went to
West Virginia and Virginia.
Yeah,
You're right. Right. But so now Trump has 24 with Hillary Clinton, so that's 3.
But what I'm getting here is to Obama. The early results in terms of black voting has dipped a little bit. So we just have to wait and see. But at the end of the day, these demographics are very important and significant because the large turnout of Hispanics, white educated, colored, women, and the rest could actually tip the balance for Hillary.
All right, well, of the American electorate is more involved in the political process than other minority groups. Since the 1950s, African Americans have overwhelmingly identified as Democrats. Their numerical strength and impact as a voting bloc came to be reckoned with in 2008. And remember, in that year, Barack Obama secured 95% to prove. They are now a more formidable force in American election, which no candidate can ignore.
Right, Musbat and Wahab telling us about the African Americans vote, the impact of that in the election. So,
clear would be realized. Let's show voters that respect.
Yes, but speaking about the British elections, you would recall that the polls suggested something entirely different. At the end of the day, it was just a sharp contrast to all the projections.
That's what I'm saying. The polls predicted it will be very close, and it was a landslide. No, the last British elections, the parliamentary elections, it turned out to be a landslide for the Conservative Party, and it was.
I mean, that he needs about 10 more, while he needs, so, you know, but actually, as you can see, the predictions are coming true, more or less. So far, there has been no surprises. All these 12 states that we got the results for 12 states now. There has been no surprises there.
Yeah, but the problem is that the heavyweights haven't come in.
We know, so that's why I'm saying that. We can't say
until the fat lady sings.
It is too early. Yeah. It's too early in the day.
Can I just add something, Cyril? If you look at the whole election, consistently, except for somewhere around mid-September,
is the trajectory of black people in the so-called New World. Their suffering, their rejection, the invention of skin color racism, their enslavement, their treatment, their punishment, whenever it is that they transgressed. I mean, one of the worst was burying somebody half in the ground and pouring sugar, brew, syrup on him and letting the ants eat him alive as punishment. And when you look at all those movies, Kunta Kinte and what people right track in terms of a congruence with what we here in Africa we wish might be the outcome tonight. They pay the price. But having said that, I know there was a lot of concern about getting out the vote in African America. They tend to vote on election day, not in early voting. So it'll be interesting to see what really happens today. Most of the time, they wait. And there's a system they use. You know, the churches are very important, leaders are very important, and you can see the last-minute message by Obama. It was directed at them. Because I didn't go to that part. Yes. You know, I just merely dealt with the history. I've not said how well they have done. Very important. Because it's very important for us in Africa in particular to have a healthy respect for these people.
Let's look at the opinions, opinion polls internationally, the polls internationally, and what different parts of the country, of the world, are thinking about it. Yes, the Democratic Party candidate, Hillary Clinton, is expected to beat a Republican counterpart, Trump. 3%. You say that's expected.
Not surprised.
Not surprised.
His friend is there, Mr. Putin. The hackers, you know, the ones that interfere with the elections.
Well, how much would you say that impacted on this process, given that, well, the results are coming in already, but
Clinton. Why? Well, because she's more into, she's a people's person.
Both candidates are, as polls show, quite unlikable candidates. But to your question, I'll be throwing my support behind
party members, Trump lovers around the world. I'm hoping that he emerges victorious.
Hillary Clinton. Because I love her agenda, her goals.
The American system is indeed unique and can spring surprises. But if the opinion of Nigeria
and other health programs, Obama's offer has been limited to electricity generation, but we haven't seen results from that. And I think it's important. I think the lessons we get from these elections is that these two people are providing different perspectives on how American interests could be pursued. It's for us to now improve our own capacity to pursue Nigerian interests at the continental and world levels.
And that's a good point to take off here and say, well, earlier on, we brought you the Vox Pop, Cecil, in-house poster, had done on the streets on the implications regarding this election and its implication. But before then, let's just go over to this evening. Let's return to Cecil and see the latest opinion polls by Nigerians again. Last time we saw the Vox Pop. We're returning to Cecil to see if there may somehow be another swing towards Trump. Cecil, let's hear you.
Well, if you're thinking of a swing that can eat into Clinton's lead here in Nigeria, then you better wait for another election season. Anyway, this sample group is what we refer to here in Nigeria as informed, something similar to the college-educated in America. I am happy to say that their opinion is consistent with the general perceptions of Nigerians.
Then the third one is that her manifestos partly match with what I want. A woman being strong enough to move on in the face of criticisms, in the face of blackmail, in the face of fear, in the face of intimidation. She keeps going.
In terms of the two temperaments I have observed, I think Clinton has more of the dexterity, the temperament, and as well as the decorum for a glorified office like the President of the United States of America.
This should be the end of our opinion polls before the election. We will see by what margin Nigeria's favorite candidate wins in this unfolding election.
Deep interest when they are getting to office. I'm not too sure that Bill Clinton knew a lot about Africa, but Rwanda forced Clinton to focus on Africa, and he was right. HIV/AIDS forced Bush to focus on Africa, and Obama, of course, has done a little bit of things in, but the argument we keep making about who will best serve African interests is, I think you said it before, the devil we know is better than the angel we don't know. We know Hillary Clinton, she's been here, she's visited a number of African countries, but the truth of the matter is that we do not, that because she's very familiar with a number of African issues, she's likely to probably engage us more than a Donald who has abused, has no regard for other tribes. And Donald wants to maintain American exceptionalism, which is isolationism, protect all American interests, irrespective of what the rest of the world think.
Yes, I share his sentiments. We know Mrs. Clinton, since she was First Lady.
There was some elimination on the battleground state, and this will, of course, lead us to the likely winner.
Okay. Besides having lived in the United States, 2008, I went to campaign for Obama. I spent 9 months campaigning for Obama. So with that, I understand how this game plays out. The swing states are the battleground states. These are states that can swing to any of the two parties because no party has already locked it up, which means if you campaign very well, if you have nice issues that actually are important to that people of that state, they can swing to you. Now, the battleground states are states like Florida now. Used to be Republican states, but because of population dynamics, so many Latinos are now living there, and so many college graduates live there. It means now that it's actually a swing state. Now, states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, what happens is that already Mrs. Clinton has gotten 268 electoral votes. What she's chopping around now is any of these swing states. Donald Trump wins Florida. He still has to win more states because he's still short of almost 66 electoral votes. So that's the problem. But Mrs. Clinton is shopping for 2 electoral votes. But that does not mean that surprises will not happen. Surprises can happen. because there are states that are actually at the edge. They're not swing states, but they are actually at the edge. They can become swing anytime, depending on news. For example, when you discover that the ABI said that that Mrs. Clinton's case was open, you see so many states that were actually at the edge quickly went Republican.
That Donald Trump conducted his campaign, which closely related to what we see even in the less developed democracies, in Africa, Asia, Latin America. Suggests the fact that that's what I'm driving at, and so for her, it's the wish of the American people that is supreme. And in the event that she wins the election, she is simply saying that she's going to unite. And of course, we have seen severally. Anytime you have a very hot contest in the presidency of the United States of America, the winner, accepts, and and also the loser.
People that are in swing states that have never decided, they say, look, she is united. She wants to build bridges. But this man is divisive. This man wants to actually divide us. So it was a strategic statement she made.
She actually was quoted as saying that I am going to build bridges, not walls.
Yes, exactly. So it was a strategic statement she made. Because, and Trump wouldn't have made that statement because already he have been building walls. So you cannot say you unite people, you have already been divided. So making that statement was a strategic political statement at the right time. Look, Americans, if you are Republican, you are afraid that tomorrow, look, I will embrace you. Those issues that are important to you, I'll look into them because that is what is also important. Is it immigration? We have to look at immigration because I know immigration is important. So affordable care, act.
Care.
Yes, which already Trump said he's going to repeal. Another one is the issue of taxing the 1%, the top 1%, which has been an issue because, as far as Trump is concerned, we must enrich.
So we need to review our immigration policies, and those who are here will still need to put some more restrictions in order to propel the indigenous American population into higher economic grounds than those who are coming into this country. And of course, obviously all over the globe, if you look at the economy, you will observe that those who are coming in.
Let me add to what he's saying. You see, there's something very peculiar to Donald Trump's message, which actually, if not the issues he attached to his message, Donald Trump would have won this election. If Donald Trump insisted,
what do you mean?
No, let me tell you, Donald Trump, if he insisted on the establishment, was the line, was when he started looking at immigration, when he started looking at African Americans, calling them names, when he started being sexist in his statement, when he started saying he will ban African Muslims who are also growing population in America, so he crossed the line. That is why there's no way he win the election.
Well, we may have to stop it here and go back to Cyril for the continuation of discussions over there. Over to you, Cyril.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mohammed. We've been following you and following the discussions,
machinery, oil, and plastic. Since the establishment of diplomatic relations between Nigeria and America in 1960, the country has continued to enjoy favorable balance of trade in spite of occasional fluctuations. For instance, in 1985, U.S. imports from Nigeria stood at $3 billion, exports at $675 million, indicating a $2.3 billion balance for Nigeria. For 5 years, from 1989 to 1993, U.S. imports from Nigeria hit the $5 billion mark, with Smiling Home with balance of $28.949 billion. Frosty relations with America saw imports from Nigeria cascading from $19 billion in 2012 to $3.8 billion US dollars in 2014, with a balance of $2.1 billion US dollars tilting in favor of the United States. U.S. imports dropped further to $1.9 billion in 2015, with $1.5 billion surplus against Nigeria. Within the period, good governance, corruption, and Nigeria's realignment of its trade interests towards Asia were called to question.
Quite a number of those who have spoken in favor of a Clinton presidency base their sentiments on the fact that she's more in tune with the situations in our country, in Nigeria. But if you recall when President Obama first came into office, it was widely believed that as one very first of African descent, given Nigeria's position in Africa, Nigeria would be, top on his agenda, and he
some of these problems for us by escalating or by unnecessarily beating ourselves, as Akin has said, much earlier. We kind of exaggerate too much the issues of corruption, our weaknesses here and there. We are not the most corrupt country on earth. There's issue of corruption, but we are not the most corrupt country, on earth. But we make it as if we are. So consequently, we just find out that things didn't work out between us and the Obama administration. And we're not the only one in this.
Compel, cajole the Americans to switch over to our interests. It has to be based on what we do. If we don't do the right things, and I think that's the point Ambassador Keshi is making, then we do not expect positive outcomes. And as a new American administration comes into power, I think it's very important for the Nigerian administration to take the issue much more seriously.
The manufacturing sector really ought to command their attention. And it is appalling that the steel industry, the steel sector in this country has not been developed. Without steel, we can't manufacture anything. Essentially, we have to import every other thing from overseas. Then, of course, you have the other reality that is it's a global supply and demand. America is not the only market. There are other markets, and we're not even servicing them. The whole of Africa basically accounts for 2.1% of the global economy. And the old joke a while ago, which I'm sure many of us have heard and laugh over, but it's very painful, is that if Africa...
Okay. Not just go into, am I jumping?
Well, I noticed you said when, not if. Ambassador Fayo.
Nobody has a very valid point, you see, which also Prof also mentioned earlier. So I personally, I don't really care whether somebody comes in to take pictures with me or something. Right. I'm not interested in that. So president coming and going, it's just part of his schedule. And then in terms of the American interest, it was not in his interest to come to Nigeria and hobnob with
Massachusetts, Missouri, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Washington, Florida. And of course, this is the largest set that could determine where this election goes. True. And since we're still looking out for more results coming in, by the way, it's been changing almost by the minute, and we should have a new set of results shortly. Yes, we should have a fresh set of
cultural and social relations, and so on and so forth. There's no question that the first concern with the Trump presidency would be his ideological orientation. Mrs. Clinton is no more within our understanding. The Cold War is gone, so that if we were talking of Ronald Reagan, we would understand where they were coming from. The post-Cold War era was Clinton, Bush, and so on. We could also understand where they were coming from. What nobody can put a finger on is this. He's never been here, hardly mentioned anything about Africa without being pejorative. As somebody has said, is also a regime based on checks and balances. I don't think that he will bring down the world, even though I, for one, having done a lot of work on some of the nuclear things that clearly has had the world on edge for some time, I worry about the stability, the mental stability of anybody who can say that, well, every country can have their own nuclear weapons. You know, why don't we allow North Korea, South Korea, if they can pay for it, they can buy their own, and things that the NATO wall that sort of maintains a little bit of peace in Europe is something that can be dismantled and so.
Even that more difficult. Of course, Trump makes the point that he's somebody who believes in the art of negotiation, and it's up to the other side to negotiate their own bargain as well as they could, and in a sense that could be a challenge for a country like Nigeria, where in foreign policy matters we don't really have a tradition of very effective bargaining, and all pointers to this country is that we need to improve our various capacities, not just in terms
of return safely.
Do you know? Trump is up, and it's pretty exciting. I really hope Trump should make it and he should win. I think we need a president like Donald Trump. You know, we're tired already of politicians.
No, I don't believe in all his ideas. I think Hillary's like, you know, a better candidate for me.
Well, the way the polls are going, we don't know. It's pretty close and tight.
Yeah, I know.
What will happen if Donald Trump wins?
I don't know. We don't know.
I think people are starting to wake up and just realize, you know, that actually, you know, this guy's really, you know, he's probably going to be our president, you know.
No. What if it turns out that he becomes the president? What would you do?
I'm gonna move to Canada.
Pardon me?
I'm gonna move to Canada.
Yeah, first thing, my name is Ibrahim Abba. I'm from West Africa. I'm here like 14 years ago. So I was part of helping the Hillary campaign, presidency 2016. Right now, how I'm seeing the poll how it's going on, I'm very, very worried about it, you know. So may I know if you want to be elected.
Reasons, let's leave globalization out of this. One of the main reasons that American companies started outsourcing jobs or started taking their factories to places like Mexico and China was because of the cost, or is because of the cost of labor in the United States, and it's still very high. Trump, for example, makes his ties in China and elsewhere for $2, $3, $5, brings them back and sells them for about $68 in the United States. Now, there's no way, if he's going to make those, his ties and other things, it's probably going to be about $11 to $15.
Making promises that cannot be fulfilled. The likelihood of what's likely to happen with the Trump presidency, for example, is that he's been very specific in terms of what he would do. He would try to do it, and it would be impossible to do it. In that case, to defend his name, his honor, his promises, is likely to push on the types of sentiments and emotions in that scenario, on really whether the establishment, as it were, would get him to be reasonable. But then, this is somebody who knows his success has depended on being very unreasonable. So why should he now change course if that's the outcome he has been getting? But of course, we don't know what the outcome of the elections is. We've made the point consistently that we must respect the voters and wait for the full result before we
know his position vis-a-vis the Middle East. You know, he's insulted the Saudis. He doesn't want to go into alliance with any of the Arab nations there. And we know the war on terrorism, particularly with ISIS, is one of the key issues that Obama faced, or is still facing anyway. And if Mr. Trump comes in and he disrupts that tapestry, so to say, and because of the bad relationship he's going to bring in that region, nobody likes him in that.
I want to make the point that I keep emphasizing, that the American system is such that it could actually help moderate the president, because the generals are going to lay out all the options before him. The people in the Ministry of, the State Department are going to lay up all, look, forget what he said during the election. The reality when he becomes president, look, there's a cartoon that I always referred to many years ago. I think it was carried by Punch when Satsam was
by Electoral College before any one man can say, any one candidate can say they've won the presidency. Ominio then brings us that report.
Americans today are not directly voting for their president. They are only empowering electors who will vote the president on their behalf via the Electoral College, as provided for in Article 2, Section 1 and Clause 2 of the United States Constitution. Thus, the current election would only determine who among the candidates will have more electors that will actually choose the president on December 19th later this year. The Electoral College is a name given to a group of people who cast each state's official votes for president. Since 1964, the Electoral College is made up of 5% of the popular vote of the people that gave the mandate. Americans call this the faithless elector, but it is rare and has never affected the outcome of an election. Some states require formal pledges enforced by fines and possible jail time, but historically, electors rarely depart from the will of the people. If you understand the Electoral College system of the United States, you will see why they have the so-called battleground states and why campaigns are conducted differently in America. It's a winner-takes-all system as we have in Nigeria, though with a little difference. For instance, a candidate can
integrity of these Electoral College votes with respect to the swing states, the battleground states, and what have you. From the graphics we have here, you will see that some states are colored red, while some are colored blue, while some are deep blue, some are just light blue. The deep blue, I am told, are the safe states for Mrs. Clinton, that is for the Democrats, while the deep red states are the safe states for the Republicans, and of course, Donald
Trump win Florida, then it's all over. You see the type of noise people here who are mostly the Democrats we met. If she wins North Carolina, she has won. If she wins Ohio, she has won. But my fear is that she can't win Ohio. Reason is because Ohio is a major industrial state, manufacturing state, and Donald Trump is appealing that he's going to return the jobs that they have balance again carefully. So be certain, so that you cannot create an impression of somebody say, look, I'm not accepting it. I'm going to court. That's what happened in 2000 when Bush said, you know what, I'm going to go to court unless we recount it. And in the process of recounting, it's discovered that there are some votes that were actually didn't go to in fact,
this brings me to we have discussed the implications of the fact that in spite of everything, the Republican candidates, Donald Trump, emerged. Let's look at a scenario of the state of the Republican Party as a party.
It's a wonderful...
Because because as a party, George W. Bush is quoted as saying that he may...
The southern states that are actually conservative states are more rural, agrarian states, that they are not college graduates, they are not in modern economies and things like that. So the more the population, the less the population influences election, the less the Republicans will win the presidential election.
You see, that's why I differ with Scholar. It's not impossible that Donald Trump, wins, may not win this election. It's not totally...
Really, it's likely he will win.
Well, it's very likely. I mean, it's not over until the behavior of the expectations of the American population, vis-a-vis, placing it as if we are the voters in the United States of America. That's not the issue.
But when he's looking at
that's what I'm saying. Listen. Look at look at the vote of Hispanics. Look at the vote of the, African Americans. What is the percentage? It's still less than the total number of votes of the whites in the United States of America. That's
not like that.
That's how it stands.
No, it's not like that because
not more than
the state. Depends the state, the population is
depending on the state. But on
wins. It's not a sentiment. The people voting in California, we vote you if you are a Democrat. I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
If you are a Democrat, they won't look even at your face. They will vote you because it's a traditional democratic state. So these states have already been known. So that's why you see here, people are not shouting. Here is dominated by Democrats. They're not shouting until they win a swing state. As soon as they win the swing state, you see how they'll be shouting. Because they understand the game. This game is not about, I'm not talking sentimentally. I'm talking about the game, how it's played. As far as the swing states are concerned, these are they say that determine who wins the election. Michigan has turned to become almost a swing state.
Yes.
Because Michigan is where you have Detroit, that is a super manufacturing, car manufacturing state. So you have to understand the dynamics. It's not sentiment. I'm not sentimental here. I've told you that if I were to vote based on reality, I'll vote Obama. I'll vote Trump. Because he will stop the dumping of Chinese goods in Nigeria. He will help us to actually close our borders and decide who brings in what into Nigeria.
Mr. Wagwara, Professor Matu, we will continue with our discussion here at the Electoral Center on the next American president. But for now, we will go back to Cyril in the American decision.
That it could have, look, in an election, particularly when in a number of areas you don't have any opinion poll, and given the way Trump, made a very good dash to close off the gap, it could go anywhere. What I think happened was the fact that even though he was closing up the gap, we still believe that he shouldn't be president. That's just, But then, as Professor has always said, we should respect the vote, the people's choice. And if he's the one, but it's still a long night. One must, one must say. And one thing again that we need to bear in mind is that if Trump had behaved and has conducted himself reasonably well, the truth of the matter is that he would have won this election outright. True. Because he tapped into the anger of a lot of Americans who just felt that Washington has disappointed them, and that in spite of the economic indices looking good, they've not been part and parcel of that, some of the success
of a whole range of people often called the rednecks, and people from all kinds of armed militia, fundamentalist groups. One of the most prominent will be what they call the 3%ers movement. The 3%ers are those mostly Anglo-Saxon.
It would be clear to see where the American presidency is headed. But we know that as at this point, we're still looking out and watching out for those results trickling in. And as soon as they come in, we'll update you on those results. And hopefully in another 1 or 2 hours, we would have a clearer picture, and we'll begin to know who should be the president of the U.S. For now, we'll go over to our news studio once again and link up with Ifeanyi Okafor, who has the news. Ifeanyi.
Election results in the election are trickling in. The race to the White House gets keener as Democrat Hillary Clinton and Republican Donald Trump jostle for the 270 Electoral College votes to decide on who sits in the Oval Office after President Barack Obama. It has been a very close race in key states, but in few hours from now, the 45th American president will emerge. As at the last moment, the results projection give 104 electoral votes to Hillary Clinton and 137 for Donald Trump. Correspondent in New York, Joy Osiago, has been speaking to some voters on their expectations. How the Electoral College works.
Are not directly voting for their president. They are only empowering electors who will vote the president on their behalf via the Electoral College as provided for in Article 2, Section 1 and Clause 2 of the United States Constitution. Thus, the current election would only determine who among the candidates would have more electors that will actually choose the president on December 19th later this year. The Electoral College is a name given to a group of people who cast each state's official votes for president. Since 1964, the Electoral College is made up of 530 outcomes of an election. Some states require formal pledges enforced by fines and possible jail time, but historically, electors rarely depart from the will of the people. If you understand the Electoral College system of the United States, you will see why they have the so-called battleground states and why campaigns are conducted differently in America. It's a winner-takes-all system as we have in Nigeria, though with a little difference. For instance, a candidate can cut away all the massive electoral votes of a state like Florida.
Joined his campaign for reasons of hate, of not liking other groups, of anything other than that of unification.
Well, I hope to see that, America keeps moving in the right direction. I think that what's really important about this election season is that there are a lot of people involved in the process, maybe more people than ever.
When I see a lot of immigrants coming out at early vote here, I can tell that they feel like their interests are being...
At $1,285 an ounce, recovering from about 1.7% loss in the previous session. Chukunonsonwa Boeze, NTA News.
And back home, still on the political scene, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed security agencies to do whatever it takes within the limits of the law towards ensuring violence-free governorship election in Ondo State, as well as the rerun election in Rivers State. The president gave the directive at a state dinner held in his honor.
Constructed by the Oshomole administration as essential artery for development, President Muhammadu Buhari has since returned to Abuja. Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The Edo State University will remain a living testimony to Governor Adams Oshomole's vision for a better tomorrow. President Muhammadu Buhari said this while inaugurating the university in Iyamu. David Ire reports.
The university, with the state-of-the-art facilities, has the administrative block and the Faculty of Sciences named after President Muhammadu Buhari.
While declaring open the second edition of Nigeria's annual education conference in Abuja, State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
Expressing deep concern on the future of education in the country, the Vice President says there are many fundamental issues to resolve if the nation is to get the best from education. The inequality, he says, already exists, as there is huge disparity in the quality of public education, especially at primary and secondary school levels, compared to what obtains in good private schools.
As my population in prisons with a steady rise in number of persons awaiting trial and call for immediate intervention from the Senate.
Owerri Prisons was established in 1905 with just a capacity of 548 inmates. but today it's housing over 2,000. It's certainly against the tenets of democracy to detain an accused person for an offense that ordinarily, if he had been convicted, he shouldn't have stayed longer in the prisons.
People should not be in detention centers for offenses they didn't commit.
Two closely related motions on upswings of unemployment in Nigeria were presented by
the displaced persons.
There is a lot of opportunities for our two countries. When I see the challenges you are facing and the determination your country is always showing each time challenges are occurring, Canada must be there to give its support.
Dating back to 1962, Nigeria-Canada relations remain cordial and strong. Available reports say the bilateral merchandise between the two countries in 2015 was more than $1 billion, and Nigeria is Canada's third largest export market in Africa. The sixth edition of the Binational Commission's meeting is billed for 2017 in Canada. Runke Kolawole, NTA News.
Away from trade and investment to agriculture.
Insurgency, and we are trying to do rehabilitation, reorientation, reorganizing their mind, and refocusing them for them to take agriculture as the main thing they can do, and as a business, not for subsistence.
The federal government says it will remain faithful in the payment of counterpart funds to the World Bank project for sustained implementation and meeting timelines. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
The present administration's fight against corruption and campaign for a change in attitude for the good of Nigeria further gets a boost through the presentation of two.
Before it kills all of us. It is a battle requiring all hands to be on deck, a battle requiring many skills.
I have a dream that ours will be a disciplined society, morally sound. I have a dream that we will be incorruptible in future by the grace of God.
Author of the books and their reviewer believe that the task of making Nigeria a better place to live in is a collective responsibility.
If people are made to understand that doing some of the things that we're doing now, but I think it will actually help us a lot. We need to tell Nigerians that some of the things that they are doing and we think is normal is not normal.
Wife of the President Aisha Muhammadu Buhari and the Emir of Kano Muhammad Sanusi II were represented.
Weather outlook for Nigeria and some world cities.
Let's look at the question of South America, for instance. How would a new president of the United States approach South America?
Well, you know, it's often said that war is too important to be left to generals alone. By the same token, America's presidential elections are too important to be left to just their politicians alone, because whatever they do tends to have a global impact. There's no question that ever since the British Empire, and even long before, America clearly has had this sort of global reach that no other nation has, and whoever leads it is important in that particular emerges. Hillary is a better known quantity. There's no question that they will have to adjust their foreign policy. The world will have to live with that, and it will be a tough time, but it can be done.
Well, in the build-up to the elections, President Obama said it wasn't just American elections, that it was the world that was the issue. issues where the world, so to speak, was at stake. How true is that?
Well, it is true. I think we've spoken about, I guess, the consequence of a Trump presidency to the rest of the world. I know in the initial discussion we were looking at Nigeria alone, but it is the globe, because with the exception of a few pockets of nations that actually align with what he's doing, everyone else is not in alignment. I think to go back to your first question with the South America, that the relationship could be savage, as he said rightfully, that is not going to be left for Trump alone, because remember, they still have the check and balance. Unless if both houses go Republican, then that check and balance, if you've lost that.
But again, I think it was very clever to say that if the companies are moving under his presidency, so we are not sure whether those who have moved before will not be taxed. So it's the new ones that will be taxed. But that be the case, it's a scary thing, because the NAFTA that he criticizes so much, it's between the United States.
Welcome once again to the NTA America Decides studio here at the Shehu Musa Yar'Adua Center in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital city. It has been a long, long night, and with so much anxiety.
In the states that share these opinions or these political approaches, there's not a huge divide in terms of numbers, so that one's party can be confident that it is going to dominate a presidential election. It is a very, very, very tight race. 4 years ago, if we were examining the race between Obama and Romney at that time, until Election Day, that race appeared to be extremely tight. Some polls had Romney ahead. This race also.
For them, but the take is interest. When you have interest in politics, and everybody knows Nigerian and American election, when America sneezes, everybody catches cold. And so far, one is happy to see the way democracy is working in an advanced country.
Nigeria and America, they operate a presidential system of governance. What do you think Nigeria has to learn from the American presidential system?
A lot. For example, look at the way election is being conducted here, even from the primary. From day one, they have what is...
You know, when we talk about the issue of electoral reform, because there are campaigns still going on, even as the election is ongoing. But in Nigeria, we stop campaign 24 hours thereabout.
They just amended it too. And don't forget one thing, American democracy is over 200 years. We are 16 years. If you look at in 1999 up to 2015, there is improvement in every election we are doing. Like the last election, at least there is one thing that is everybody is thinking about, PVC. Everybody knows what is PVC now. We can improve on it. The moment we are able to improve on
say 10 to 15% of that kind of attention and that level of involvement to Nigerian elections, I think things will get better even for us in this country. And I think that the social status of the people, of the Nigerians who are getting involved in the American elections, look at the people who are invited here. A lot of them are people that you could call the middle class to upper class, or the elite, the very educated Nigerians. And they are so involved, they've spent the entire night here observing American elections, discussing it, debating it, projecting into here in Abuja. They are rigging, they are just using that as a mockery. I'm thinking that there is so much you can borrow from what is happening in America. And I think that the problem is not about law. It's not even leadership problem alone. It's also followership problem. If followers don't ask for rice, they don't ask for salt, they don't ask for sugar from those who are contesting. They don't make the cost of contesting election so high, but they look at the quality of the debate, the promises that the person is making.
Birumato and Odelim Mwegbara. Still talking about the emerging American president. Clinton, I understand, has taken Virginia, and Trump has gotten Ohio, which is a swing state. That takes him to how many electoral votes now?
I can't know now because I'm not looking at it, but that's the only swing state. That's the only swing state that Trump has taken. Bear in mind that what Hillary needs is to win one swing state.
And how many swing states do we have?
We have Florida.
Undeclared.
We have Florida. We have.
Yeah, Professor Mato was talking about how many total electoral votes now are we looking at from the tally?
Has 166, and she has about 120 after 122 after taking Virginia. You see, the problem, and then again, the thing to note is that by the results that have been provisionally released, Trump still leads in North Carolina, he leads in Florida, you know, and quite a few other. I think it's only in Pennsylvania that Mrs. Clinton so far is.
Will Ms. Clinton be able to win one of the swing states? Possibly North Carolina, because also you have a lot of population of blacks in North Carolina, and you have Latinos in North Carolina, and you have a lot of college graduates and women college degree holders in North Carolina. So it's possible that they will vote for Hillary. If Hillary can win North Carolina, Donald Trump can win all the remaining states, all the swing states. Still, Hillary will win. That is the sentiment. That's not the sentiment. That's the reality. And I continue to vote for Trump. Why? You wonder why? Because Trump actually is saying, let's close the border. These people are not interested in so many immigrants coming to the state, to the country. So that is my only fear. But if Trump, if Ms. Clinton can win North Carolina, if she's leading there and continues to lead there and win North Carolina, the game is over.
North Carolina is still
which is the Healthcare Act, which is very, very good. And Donald Trump says he's going to repeal it. Ms. Clinton said, I'm going to modify it, to make changes in it. Let me tell you, if you have voter apathy in red states, blacks not voting, it makes no difference. If blacks do not vote in Georgia, for example, whether they vote or don't vote, it doesn't make much. That's what is going on. If it's going to be 50, it's going to be 100.
Much earlier we talked about the need for Hillary, if she wins as president, to have a majority senators.
If she does not have Senate, and she does not have the Congress, that is the House of Reps, she will have difficulty pushing her policies. She will have difficulty.
Wayne County and the rest of them. Trump is apparently leading. Now remember this. These are red states that are always going to be for Republicans. So right now, the only states that we are hoping Hillary can win and become the next president is Michigan and Colorado. She is winning in Colorado, and we are expecting her to win in Florida. So those are the three states. If Clinton fails to win in Michigan.
Yes, Dr. Ewa. What we're looking at here is that what might be the implications of a Trump presidency. Under this, you did say that you're just waiting for, you're just looking at about 2 states now, and if those states come in, there's still a chance if Hillary Clinton wins in those states, there's still a chance she might take.
But it's going to be a very long contest right now, as I see from the projections and on the states that Trump is actually winning. It's really uncomfortable. I'm just saying that, as sitting down here watching, it's very uncomfortable. We hope the reverse will be the case.
Well, it was thought that it would be a tight race, but was it envisaged to be this tight?
Repeat that, please. To turn from red to blue. He has won all of them. So we are now relying on Clinton to hold on to what has been traditionally the Democratic states, like Michigan, like New York, and some others. But if things don't work out very well as we are looking at it right now, it's not going to be it's not good until the race is favorable to her in the Detroit suburbs where we think she might do well.
Already she's projected to win California, Washington, Oregon, and Hawaii. Those are not going to put her up to 270. And given the fact that Trump has won North Carolina, you know, Florida, she's projected to win Florida. And if he takes Florida, we can all just settle down that Trump will be the next president of the United States. And I'll go back to what I said the last time I was there. I think last Wednesday or so, there was this Good Morning Nigeria. I did mention that not just retain the majority, oh well, this has just gone off, but I think they have even doubled it, and the Democrats seem to have lost some seats as well.
Right.
But I'll give you the results in a few seconds when this when it's put back. I think they are trying to update all the results, but definitely it's a total clean sweep by the Republicans. Maybe we should also make this point. It's rare to see a party
could win. And the tenor of Trump's campaign is that this is our last chance. He repeated that over and over again. And what that did was to rally the base. I think at the beginning of the Trump campaign, it was assumed he would only rally the right fringe. But what he has shown is that he's able to rally best.
For them to experience the best that the world can do for them. Government will sustain the effort until all the remaining guards return safely.
Do you know that importing consumables and domestic products kill local manufacturing and negatively
Okay, well, we'll work on that link there and see if we can get more from Dr. Ewa right there in the U.S. Well, Hillary Clinton has a slight lead in the polls with 190 Electoral College votes to Donald Trump's 186 votes. She got the lead after clinching the 55 electoral votes from California. Now, her campaign, however, remains wary of the situation in Michigan and Wisconsin. Donald Trump.
A sea change in American political, international, as well as sociocultural life. In other words, the whole notion that a new America is about to come. Maybe we're just being dire. Maybe we're reading too much into this. You know, it's unusual. Normally, after 8 years, people are tired of one party anyway, so there may be something there.
All right. Well, back to our Eradua Center, and I believe that Mohammed.
That's Massachusetts, 11 electoral votes. Then you have Maryland, 10 electoral votes. You have Connecticut, 7 electoral votes. Then you have New Jersey. I don't know whether New Jersey have been called.
No, it's not.
Which is 14 electoral votes. By the time you add up these things, you get you discover that what we are waiting for is Pennsylvania. She must win either Pennsylvania, yes, or Florida. The chances of winning Florida, because Florida actually is supposed to be a red state. What changed the dynamics is because of. So if she wins 270, she has won.
Professor Mato, it looks like from the tally now, 197 against 187. We still have Pennsylvania 20 electoral votes, New York 29, Massachusetts 11, Maryland 10, Colorado 9. She may end up getting more than 280 electoral votes.
Well, if she, like Odlim rightly said, if she is able to win either Florida or Pennsylvania, it will be a clear victory. Failure to win any of these two swing states may spell a lot of trouble, you know. I think really this is one of the closest,
globalization, free trade, and
what is the demography in Pennsylvania?
It's mostly, Pennsylvania has some of the best universities. When you, after Massachusetts and Connecticut, and possibly California, the next is the Pennsylvania. University of Pennsylvania is a wonderful university. So, so that is that. The demographic dynamics there shows that there are so many college graduates who are, working class, middle class families who actually are not bothered a lot about immigrants. So it is that area that Republicans are having an edge by Mr. Trump by saying, you know what, I'm going to reverse this. But Democrats have to assure the people that, you know what, we're going to. Now, look at Pennsylvania. It's a high-tech, but also a it's also a high-tech, but also it is a financial hub, sub-hub. Now, Wall Street has not been actually fixed after the financial crisis of 2008. And the Democrats have not fixed it. Even though there's Dodd-Frank Act that is saying that we have to reform the Wall Street and things like that. But that has not been done. But good.
It appears to me that everything election-wise is rooted in America's history.
Well, of course, because from the manner in which the result seems to be, appearing, it clearly shows that there are these areas where they are predominantly red, where they are predominantly, blue. And of course, the areas of contestation are these, battlegrounds that, so far seems to have favored the candidate of the Republican Party. And like Odlim, is saying, possibly it clearly speaks volume about the way from those who should own it seems to be, building a lot of ground.
But there's another thing that is going for Mrs. Clinton that we have not talked about. The husband was the only president since 1968 to have reversed the deficit to surplus. And that has to do with the movement of American economy from industrial to service economy, the high tech that came up. So that is another area that actually she has not fully exploited. You see, the Obama recovery, the so-called Obama recovery was
okay, yes, wasn't it's clear that the figures are changing by the minute. Where are the figures now? Just give us an update at this point. All right, we'll still work on those links and see if just how we can get through to Dr. And if it does go to the House of Reps?
As of now, the Republicans control both. And you won't get them voting for Clinton, whom they hate passionately anyway.
Right.
So I think for Clinton and her supporters and voting in the United States, they are very close to the end of the road.
All right. Now, speaking about the American Congress, for instance, one of the things that's been put out is a reform. And Donald Trump spoke about
three prices as the presidency, the House of Reps, and the Senate. If they do, one may assume that they would be in such total control that they can do whatever they want to do. However, we should not forget that the Republican Party itself is heterogeneous and has three main groups that do not agree on a lot of issues. One group is very much for free trade and are totally opposed to Trump's idea. Trump as in... For those of us who are analysts, American politics is going towards very interesting times, and it's not sure what the contours of those interesting times would be.
Yes. Can I just give you...
But it would be a whole new America. And if it's the of inclusive civil America that people have gotten used to, that is highly progressive, is one thing. But if it's 1920s Jim Crow kind of...
it's been brought up earlier in terms of the controlling the executive, the Senate, and the Congress, and the judiciary. I think what I'm thinking is going to happen is all what Trump has been preaching about his campaign and the rest. I think they will be careful in terms of how their policies are deliberated, because the eyes of the whole world, as the prophet said, will be on America. And because the world also still have the power in terms of trying to election as usual after every 4 years. And if you don't perform, a new crew should come in and rule the country.
All right, this one, let's go to Professor Jibril Ibrahim, and it's talking about changing demographics, as you said earlier on, in the U.S. Would this suggest by any means that the white population isn't happy with what's happening right now?
They've been very concerned about the changing demographics, because what has happened is that for the first, if they lose these elections, then in the next 4 years, the demographics will be even more disfavorable to them. I think there is the other dimension related to education, which is very important. As we are all aware, college graduates in the United States tend to be democratic, tend to support the Democratic Party, while those who haven't been to college that have a significant component. It will impact on the number of, on the growth of college education in the United States, and it will impact on
And if we were preparing for the Clinton presidency, we should just begin to prepare for the Trump presidency.
And finance and in the military, in the Ministry of Defense and all that. So the rhetorics of campaign.
Better leader than Obama, so that's how far he's go. Now this is campaign, as it's been.
lower the tension with Russia is a good thing in principle. But that's not I want to make a comment on some of the previous conversation, which is simply that we have to understand that Trump not only does not have that much experience, but yes, he's going to bring in his own people, and his own people are different from the traditional Republicans we used to know. But Trump should be regarded more as an insurgent, but a successful one if he wins, and I don't quarrel with success in that particular sense. You know, but I really have to ask myself, what is in the head and
No, it wouldn't seem as if Dr. Ewa can hear us.
What's his name?
All right.
No, he said
well,
that PA
unfortunately, we
Michigan
couldn't get that.
Wisconsin too close to call.
Yes. Again, we're coasting to the finish line, and the American global vision has always been to increase its sphere of influence, and with a Trump. But again, even if you had a Clinton presidency, for instance, you still have the dominance in Congress. So it would still be a difficult presidency, wouldn't it?
It will certainly be a difficult presidency. I think, first of all, there's a question of what's happening in the other parts of the world. The economic strength of China has been growing incredibly. 60% of Americans think are gains that have been acquired forever, such as the right to abortion, etc. This means there will be great social battles within America. And this is not just the battle between the minorities and the white community, but even within the white community, there will be ideological battles over in terms of their ideological objectives. I think we wouldn't know that for now, but I think one thing we can leave here this morning with is that life internationally and the United States will become even more exciting as we move forward.
Excited? or constraining? But you're right. For scholars like you, they're excited. You know, in terms of practical reality. Well, you know, my only footnote, Professor Brin, is whether what you've laid out here. It's not all this hodgepodge of ideas and claims and counterclaims that lead to electoral victory. The question is, what is the ultimate goal?
All right. Still on what's unfolding in the U.S. presidential election. Yes, we can. That's perhaps best describes the extraordinary emergence of Barack Obama as president of the world's most powerful nation. But to what extent has his administration...
So the institutions will decide what you can do and what you cannot do.
Although under his watch, the wealth gap between African Americans and whites has widened, Obama is, however, being held for a number of African American friendly policies. At home, a number of African American judges have been appointed, while the Universal Healthcare Program, also tagged Obamacare, touched the lives of many African Americans. Taking a stock of the Obama presidency, Nigerians say he could have done more. And of course, the visit of Secretary of State John Kerry to Nigeria.
I believe that what we must be looking for is greater collaboration. There's already a Nigerian-American Binational Commission where we speak to issues from energy to education to infant and child mortality. I mean, we're strategic partners where we speak about democratizing the United Nations, where we speak about collaborating on things that are tangible, where we speak about diversifying the economy, where we speak to energy, where we speak to good governance. And I think that what we must be looking for as a country is greater collaboration.
Which is expected of any African leader. So democracy as a focus, and that is one of the areas where we are lacking in Africa. It tries to promote and to pinpoint specifically that, look, Africa, you need to do better. We are expecting you to do better. You have the potentials to do better. And indeed, that was a key point. And then also on issues of corruption on the African continent, they tried to make an issue out of it.
Got. In that context, therefore, my suspicion, if you do counterfactual analysis, is that a white president may have done even better for Africa than Obama did. I think Ambassador him as it could have got, but then we on the continent must continue to tell ourselves we had no basis to assume he would do better than what he did.
Senate leader, the Republican, swore and urged his colleagues to make sure that Obama did only one term.
Yep.
There were many people, particularly whites, who were significantly unhappy about Obama's victory. And you could see that the race relation over the last 8 years has actually, been bad. What has happened in the last couple of years, actually, is that I think the Americans need to face. We must not forget is the fact, again, Donald Trump. Remember the day Donald Trump said Obama should stop walking like a black man. I mean, when you make such statements, you remind quite a number of people, particularly the whites, who probably, unfortunately, we were not opportune to see how the demographics were shaping up for us to be able to know. But I won't be surprised if significant white population actually came out, to vote in other quote-unquote.
Win all the states.
No, except Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is, nobody knows because it's a swing state. But Mrs. Clinton went there with the daughter. Obama went there with the wife. And so many musicians went there. Lady Gaga and some of them. You see, Obama has been...
Make the Pennsylvanians to go to vote.
Exactly. And Obama has been phoning Pennsylvania since morning. Because they have studied the electoral map. They know where the problem lies. You see, even in 2008, we were dying minutes. Dying minutes, we almost cried because I spent 8 months in the United. What I mean, so...
It does not appear to me as if Mrs. Clinton has a chance. It is, as far as I think, getting rather very late, for her to for her to come back, into the race. But I will really be very glad. But
have been carefully put together here.
But how possible?
Swing states.
He did mention to us that 90%.
No, it's not true. How can you say 90%? No.
Went to Trump.
No,
how many swing states are
now
there?
you have only Pennsylvania as a swing state.
How many
has
swing states?
20 votes. 20 electoral votes. So you cannot afford
How many swing states do you have?
Calculate the swing state, then divide it by 100.
You have about 6.
You know how you can get 90%? Because also,
if you have
I have the knowledge of mathematics. What I'm saying is this. Excuse me. Can I go ahead? You see, those who are in this game, like Obama and co, they all mobilized to go to Pennsylvania. They are studying the game. They know where it boils down to. Now, I'm not. They might be wrong as I'm wrong, but he was far behind him. Won that 29 states. He was able to actually win the electoral vote, even though Mr. Agor won the majority vote. So popular vote. So we are looking at this Pennsylvania. It is when this Pennsylvania is won, or we say that Trump is leading with certain margins, then the issue of settlement will come. But I will not even use settlement if he loses, because if they are using settlement, it means that we are doing all this not based on some factual indices and things like that. They're just based on
The issue now is that quite a lot of us really have put staked a lot of things. We will prefer that the results should have been otherwise than we are receiving it this morning. But then, like I keep saying, we are not American voters. We are not Americans. We don't have the powers to do that. Whatever they do is, of course, what we are going to suddenly come to terms with.
Excuse me, we came here to analyze. We didn't come here to vote. So my being invited is to analyze. I'm not analyzing as an American. I'm analyzing as an independent who wants to look at facts. So I don't know whether I have to be an American to analyze.
I'm not independent. I am not independent. You are not independent.
No, exactly. So we came here to analyze these facts.
But the issue is we are analyzing with facts. I agree with you.
Yes.
Professor Mato used the word sentiment, maybe based on the fact that it appeared even the mock voting within the Electoral Center showed where the, if you like, the appreciation
of the Nigerians.
But they called it mock. Did I participate in it so that I must have voted? No,
but
it's a mock.
But I don't think Professor Mato is saying you are not being factual.
No. You see,
don't take it personal.
No, I'm not taking it personal. I'm trying to clarify things because he's my friend anyway. He's my friend. What I want us to agree is this. Based on electoral map, based on what is blue states, what are blue states, and what are red states, men and women, that he want to see in his lifetime a woman becoming president of this country. And the wife was by his side, and the husband over him. So it is the ambition. She has nursed all these years. She has played all the cards to be there, and even Monica Lewinsky case was all part of the game and things like that. Even Obama, as soon as Obama came, they all embraced Obama, worked with Obama, continue playing the card. But you can't beat nation. Nation can decide no. You can be, and I've said it out with that number, that Mr. Trump has all it takes to win this election. If not that he went to become a sexist and a racist. Because Americans are saying, what is happening here? We are losing all our jobs. We are becoming a third world country because all the jobs are moving to India.
Professor Mato, is there any likelihood Hillary Clinton will accept the results if she does not win?
Yeah, I'm sure she will. And that's from the basis of the statement she made, during her last campaign. Ready to build bridges, not necessarily when she becomes the president of the United States of America, but she should be ready to accept the wishes and the aspirations of the American voters. That's simple and clear, and I'm sure she's going to do it in case she loses the election.
Well, it is now that it can be neither way, either way. So
yes. For me, if you ask me, as an African and as a Nigerian, that want this country to become an industrial economy, from the bottom of my heart, sentiment apart, I will tell you I would like Donald Trump to win, so that he will scatter WTO. So he will scatter so many things that will benefit us. Because WTO, Mr. Clinton actually supervised, has destroyed Nigerian economy. You don't know the level it has destroyed this economy. Because dumping from China, dumping from all over the world, they suffocated our small businesses. They suffocated our textile industry. They suffocated our just name it, our canary industry. So we want that to be a playing ground, that is a playing field that is beneficial to Africa, especially my country, Nigeria.
That's believing that we do something to our infrastructure.
Look, when you have oil tax, when you close your borders and be able to industrialize, infrastructure will not be a problem. The why infrastructure will not be invested, nobody is investing in infrastructure, especially the foreigners that are supposed to, because they see the return on investment is not there. Because as soon as
the lowest class,
not multiplier, trickle up effect or trickle down effect. Anyway, let me tell you what Mrs. Clinton has that is going for her. She wants to continue with the Obama Affordable Care Act, but she has to amend it because of some things that's some amendment.
She has to control the Senate.
What?
She has to be in control of the Senate to do that.
No, as a president of a country, you can propose amendment bill. You understand me? And if she makes, after all, Obama did not control the Senate and the House for him to get this in pass. There are people in the Republican Party that if you say you are bill to them very well, they will join you. And that's why lobbying comes to play. Another one is she's going to be tougher on Wall Street enforcement. Because Wall Street, since the Glass-Steagall Act was abrogated, was repealed by Clinton, it has caused a lot of problems at Wall Street because they were now involved in self-enforcement, which has caused so many financial crises, including the 2008 Great Recession. Now, she is interested in raising taxes on the wages, which Donald Trump is saying, no, I will not raise, because if I raise tax on the wages, it means that they will not be productive, they will not create jobs. In fact, I will not raise taxes on them. But if you don't raise taxes on the wages, how do you raise enough money in order to pay for infrastructure expansion and upgrading? And especially because America is borrowing $2 billion every day in form of deficit. So she wants to reverse that so that she will have enough money to invest in education and to invest in healthcare, and also to invest in social security. Also, there is the issue of Volcker rule. Volcker was the chairman of Fed during President Carter,
the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, Federal Reserve, Carter and Reagan. Now the rule says, the rule he came up with is that we impose a fee on banks that engage in speculative bets. And Mr. Trump said, no, they can go ahead. I'm not going to.
Party or the Democratic Party. I think the central issue there is that it is the American interest that is primary. So the primacy of the American interest is what always dictates America's relation, regardless of which party. Now let me give you an example. I keep saying this. The last 8 years when President Obama won election, the expectations in Africa were so high that this is the time that Africa is going to break through. This is the time that America will make contributions to the development, economic, political, and social upliftment of the continent of Africa. But I will tell you that if you sum up the entire programs of the Obama administration in the last 8 years and you put it in comparison with what George Bush, who has been so despised, by the Africans, you will find that there were in fact more concrete programs practically directed at intervention on the continent of Africa than we had during Barack Obama. So this, disappointed expectation.
Especially in healthcare?
Yeah, in several other areas. So in America, it really doesn't matter. There is this unbroken link between Africans, like I did say, the minorities generally, and the Democratic Party and whoever its candidates are in Africa. So we don't have to, it is America first. America first, and America first, then any other thing else shall follow.
I agree with him. I agree with him, and same time without number. When I was campaigning for Obama, I was not campaigning for Obama to solve African problems, because we know we were only campaigning for Obama for you to open up that closed door for blacks. Remember that when Martin Luther King said, before he died, I have seen the promised land. I may not get there, but one day my people will get there. Obama getting to the promised land, he had opened up for so many African Americans. But you see, Obama was very strategic. You see, the first opportunity given to you, if you abuse it, you close that door permanent. Obama did not want to come and solve African problem because all eyes were on him to see how he will transform, but he couldn't have done it. Let me tell you, the establishment runs America. It's not a president of America. It's an American establishment that runs America.
Thank you
if the establishment runs America, an individual cannot just run
economists and political analysts. It's been very interesting having the two of you, Professor Keburumato, Professor of Comparative Politics. I must say, it's been very, very illuminating, educating. Now it appears that there are latest figures now. Clinton.
From all indications, it's a very, very, very close call. It's pretty tight. But our coverage will still continue, and at some point in time, we will update you, even if it's outside the America Decides studios. But for now, we're back here with our guests who are still very much with us here, and at this point, we'll begin to take your closing comments. And let's begin with Ambassador Fayomi there. And yes, what can we take away from what's happened so far? And because of the factor of time, let's look at it from last night to this morning in terms of the presidential
Yes, it's, you know, right from before the studio even opened, we knew it was going to be a close call. We expected a tight race. So we are not disappointed in that for now. But then there are so many factors that could have contributed to the scenario we have now. It's been a long time in the U.S. election history that by now you don't have a winner.
All right.
You know, you should have, you know, not running to the very last vote, you know, as if we are in a football match or something. So, but all these factors that we have analyzed today, you know, in terms of the racism that is the element there, the sexism that is there, and the demagoguery here and there, you know, all of them contributed to what we have today, which is unprecedented, so to say. So I'm waiting to see exactly where this will lead. Eventually, it might be to the extent that there will be no clear winner. Nobody's going to get that 270 electoral votes, and that means for the first or second time now, it means it's going to now go to outside the norm that everybody has been seized with. It's quite a challenging election for both candidates, because by now I could imagine how nerve-wracking it will be for them. We are on edge here. Now imagine if you are the candidate, and as of this moment, you don't even know what to do. The champagne is on ice and all that, but nobody's drinking anything.
Nobody's drinking, yeah. All right, Professor Jibril Ibrahim.
I think we've had a fascinating evening. I think in our analysis, there was internal party democracy, but those who emerged are people who are deeply divisive for the American people and deeply unpopular among a majority of the American people. What this tells us is that it's an election that for decades, if not for centuries, will be analyzed as an election that posed fundamental question about what is the meaning of democracy. How can you have the two leading candidates in an election being both so unpopular among the people, and the people having been forced to make a choice on who is the one I hate the most, rather than the normal democratic choice, which is which candidate do I like the most? And I think moving forward, a lot of democracies are already posing similar questions, that our political processes, political structures, and political machines capable of producing expected outcomes, which is to bring out the most popular candidates. I think as we await for the final results, that reflection will continue to be one of the important lessons emanating from these elections. I think it's something that's very rich for my discipline.
Result, it holds true that none of the candidates reached the attainable 270. Then there are other constitutional steps that will kick it. So in itself, it's a history. And you know, as my previous panelists have said, in terms of the two candidates, the unpopularity from both parties, and the way the election right now is, and also all the maneuver that have taken place during the campaign, and even in the last 2 or 3 weeks to the election, what has happened is unfortunate. And I think students will have a very good case study.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chidi Wazirike, in briefly.
Yes, in a second. Very clearly, I agree. I share the sentiments of my colleagues. And let me say clearly that in the history of American elections, this is a true cliffhanger. We have not seen anything like this in a long time. But there's no question that the lesson we, from this part of the world with a maturing new democracy, can take away is that democracies do work. They're about the choices of people. So long as the elections are free and fair, and properly conducted, that's pretty much what it is. The people have voted, and that's where we stay. I would say.
Thank you, and thank you to NTA too for doing this to enlighten Nigerians.
All right. Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, big thank you to you. It's good to have you share your thoughts with us here.
Always a pleasure.
All right. And Ambassador Akin Fayomi, we thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We hope the all night wasn't too much of a strain for our guests here.
If you had won, it wouldn't be a strain.
Well, and to all our viewers, we thank you for watching, and this is where we must leave it and say good morning. I am Cyril Stover. Bye for now.